Whenever you look at the arts engagement study, it says 95% of people in Ontario want to do more and participate more in the arts.
One of the great things about Kingston is that many art forms are vibrant.
There's definitely sort of a scene developing.
Since I've been in this city, which is nearly 30 years, the one thing I've noticed is that Kingston is just really arts friendly as a community. We've got so much happening and so much to be proud of here.
I think it's a good time. I think everything's sort of starting to come together and moving in the right direction to serve youth in the arts.
There's a lot of energy. There is a lot of energy and there's a lot going on. But I almost think there's too many artists, too many cooks and not enough people to eat it, sort of thing. Yeah.
What I really love about Kingston is that there's such diversity in terms of the types of arts that are represented here.
Well, I think one place that Kingston's really strong, and I think we are all starting to feel the excitement of it, is in sort of festivals, things that pop up at a specific time in the calendar year.
There actually is room for loads of competition here. I find that both in printing and design, the more designers, the more printers there are, the more people are aware of the services.
I think it's a combination of the momentum in the community, the kind of infrastructure that's being developed and has been developed recently, and there's just a whole set of new tools and enthusiasm that's going to take us to another level.
It's kind of could be a danger of being too comfortable within the sphere here of mutual affirmation. So being able to act outside the city and measure our activities against what's going on elsewhere, and to participate elsewhere, and also to bring people in.
I think it's really important that the art scene not become a caricature of itself. And there's a certain risk of that, because there's certain wardrobes that are associated with the arts in Kingston, and certain places that are associated with the arts in Kingston. And if that becomes too calcified, it's really a problem. It's a barrier to entry. It intimidates people, or it puts them off, or they just don't feel comfortable there. So somehow multiplying the kinds of spaces where things happen.
I love the art, but you gotta get there. You gotta get in.
I know that one of the greatest strengths of the art scene here is that a lot of people know each other, but that means that if you don't know the people who know each other, you feel really out of it.
I remember feeling that, there's something going on at Agnes Etherington. I've never been in there. I'm a Queen's graduate. I've never been into Agnes Etherington because I feel somehow it's only for a certain type of people.
I've always thought maybe there's a world that's sort of out there that I don't have access to, right? Because I don't have those Facebook friends, or I don't know where to look for listings.
I think in downtown for sure there's so much going on, and if you're living downtown or connected to people downtown, you'll know about it. But then you go to other parts of town and they don't know what's going on, and maybe it's not as accessible for people living in other parts of town.
One of the things that we've done is taken them over to see St. Lawrence and Queens, and a lot of those youth had not been outside of North Kingston. So it's exposing youth to other things, and I think that that's really important in the arts culture as well.
It's important that our spaces here be what they need to be in terms of serving the sort of highest quality. At the same time, we like to break down the sort of perceptions of elitism or exclusion. So we've taken some steps in that direction in terms of very low admission fees and free Thursdays.
Well, one of the good things about being here, I think, is access from the town. We're easy to find. Quite easy to find here. Parking is still difficult. The fact that we're up and down flights of stairs, that we're in an old basement room, we don't have access to public washrooms, we don't have wheelchair access as yet.
It's really a case of there is no accessibility for screening venues in the city.
Here being a historic building, that's one of the challenges. I think are going to put in an elevator, but it's going to go up, not down. There is a stair climber lift that's not used in another building here that I thought they might be able to install, but then they looked at one other thing called a Garavante lift. I demoed that, I tried it out, and I actually went in the station on it in this chair, and it was good. But I don't know where it's at right now. I think they're thinking of ordering it still. I don't know when they plan to get it, but it's a waiting game. I can't wait until they get it. I want to get back in the station.
I bus everywhere, and so that can take quite a long time, and it's totally out of the way. So it's hard, especially with later shows and events that go on, and the all ages shows, which there aren't very many of, which is unfortunate. Ones that are around, it's hard coordinating bus schedules to get back home.
People that live north of Princess Street that need to take a bus to get downtown to access cultural things. If you have children, the cost is phenomenal if you don't have an income.
Transportation is always, when you talk to families in need, the number one barrier is transportation. They always say it's harder to get from here to where the classes are, where those programs are. It's easier to bring the program to them. When we started serving, and that was just new this year, those 3 schools, like 3 different schools, 3 same time, and they're packed. Like you're 70 kids at each school. We'd never bring that many kids down here. So as soon as we started serving the neighborhood, the numbers went up.
I think we have to stop thinking about culture happening in rooms that are set aside for culture. Theaters, museums, concert halls, those sorts of things. I think that we have to realize that art can and should take place in a lot of public spaces out in the world. So, artists should be thinking of ways to make performances or art in the malls, in parks. I've often thought that it would be really interesting if Kingston artists got together and did some floats for the Santa Claus parade.
There's other things I know go on in Kingston that I'd like to take part in, but part of it's economics, I can't go. Part of it is transportation to attend to various events. The timing of it may be that I could get there and not an access bus home, or various different things.
Once they're in the door, I think any art form, it's about making it a safe space for the new person to that form of culture. Allowing someone to take the risk, to take the gamble, to learn something new, to put themselves out there, so that they experience the joy of taking that risk.
How do you get somebody who sort of thinks of going to the hockey game and they think about it with such enjoyment and pleasure? I think that if they came to a show at the theater, they would find it just as amazing and pleasurable, but it's getting them to make that leap.
How are we creating that kind of awareness and understanding?
For whatever reason, there's not really a drive for people to kind of look outside of of sort of the scene that they're comfortable with.
Do we really care if mainstream audiences aren't attending our festival? Because essentially that's not who we're targeting. But in order to sustain and even build our self-generating revenue, the answer is unfortunately yes.
I don't know how many emails a day I get from people announcing some art show or somebody, most of those, I'm sorry to say, I just throw in the trash. I barely read them because there's so many of them, and the information in them is go and see this artist at this such a place. Why would I be interested in, whatever.
Find the storyline. What is the backstory of what you're promoting, and try to pull 1 or 2 things out.
I think as a community, to build audiences, we need kind of a forum where we can interact.
A huge part of that is media. Like, we need the coverage. We need the media to get excited about what's happening.
Started out by mailing, snail mailing, because I started out 29 years ago. Everything was snail mail, banging posters up on walls.
Huge thing for us is just constantly building an email list of people that have asked for your information. The value of 20,000 people who are asking to hear what our events are is so much more powerful and so much more valuable than a single print ad that you have to get on the right day, in the right section, on the right page, to the right market.
This year, we did a lot of advertising in the small towns in Eastern Ontario. And we did online advertising, a lot of online advertising. We did Facebook ads this year, Google ads, Globe and Mail online, Wig online, lots of online advertising. And it was incredibly successful.
We don't build audiences by staying in the core. We have to please the core, but how do you branch out from there? It's when a friend feels safe to bring you into the audience.
Generally, if I'm going to something, it's because I either know the artist's work or the artist, or because somebody who I trust has told me that I should go. Word of mouth. And word of mouth, to develop word of mouth, seems to me it's a very labor-intensive thing, and it involves face-to-face conversations with people and the building of community, not on Facebook, but in real life.
When you're involved in the arts and you think that it's the same couple hundred or handful of thousands of people who come to the same things all the time. But I remember when I started with the film festivals, like suddenly there was this whole new crowd of faces and names and people that I had never seen out at music, because I played in bands and stuff like that, who loved the film festival and were incredibly passionate about it, and I didn't see them out at other things. And I'm finding that through working with the Grand Theatre and working with the museums, that they have their devoted fans as well. And they're not the same people who go to the film festival. So
I do think there's an audience out there. I mean, I look at the Playhouse, the Thousand Islands Playhouse in Gananoque. I think they get a lot of good audience in there, but something that they're doing is they're getting more into the community. So you almost have to engage people.
We can't say, well, make the art, but I'm not going to sully myself with the promotional aspects of it, because to me, art is a process. Art is about human beings interacting with each other, and so the dissemination of the art, the way that the art is viewed, is just as much part of the work as the original work.
The idea of just going to see the art, while it's still important, it's not the mainstay that you can just count on. You have to animate the work, you have to have things going on, discussions. People want to engage together.
We have a much larger constituency, I think, of people who may not have had the opportunity to explore the arts, or may not have had that pathway into an art form made for them. And I think that's really where our mandate is in terms of engagement.
I think basically, there's an enormous appetite in Kingston for the arts. And it's a matter of good programming.
It's funny because you would think with a small city there's only so many people, but in fact there are more people involved. That's my sense of things right now, is there are a lot of new faces. But where were they before, I don't know, but that more people are coming out and there's a little bit more integration.
Making art on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis stimulates people to get more interested in actually going to the professional stuff.
Kids that have challenges in academics often have gifts in the arts, and we need to be, we need to capture those gifts so that kids have a sense of self-esteem. If you can find one thing that a kid is interested in and tap into it, you've got the world's of potential.
The key thing, I think, is that most people that go by never see live music. They just don't go to bars. They don't go to concerts, so they never see live music. So anybody playing an instrument is worth something.
So people may be listening to music or watching a video or a film or whatever when they're working out on a treadmill down a Good Life instead of in their home or in a traditional kind of arts venue.
We were really fortunate that the world-renowned Paul Taylor Dance Company was coming and performing in Kingston. So one of the things that we did is we partnered up with Samba Maracuya, who was an amazing musical group, and Paul Taylor Company, and we had two different events going. One was down at City Hall, and one was in the Cat Center, which is a great public space, but not a traditional venue for dance. And we went out to the school systems and we said, hey, we have this great dance company coming. They're going to lead free classes for the public. Would you like to bring your students? And overwhelmingly, teachers said yes.
The thing about Open Voices is I got in the ground floor when they first opened in 2002, and it has been golden to me. The thing that's nice about them is they're inclusive of all. So disability or not, they're going to make sure you're included, and they even accommodate like money-wise and different things like that. So it's the best taste of arts I can get.
I sort of have a feeling that there are more creative people in Kingston per capita than in a lot of other places. It just seems to, maybe because it's a university town or just because of its physical location or whatever. There's a lot of very interesting people here, and they're doing a lot of things.
One of the things that I take great pleasure in and kind of enjoy concocting, if I can, is sort of exchange among different demographic groups, so that when we can find events or put things together that draw a cross-section of people together that might not normally encounter one another, to share an experience together.
We end up in silos, we end up working in our own little areas, and I think that it would be great if we can be more collaborative, because that's when you have real progress.
What we try to do in our programming is marry genres, put different art forms up against each other in unusual ways. So we had a theatrical performance of a book of poetry, a dramatic performance with music of a crime novel.
I think where we're sort of lagging behind, and it'll be interesting to see how this develops, is like physical places that are hubs.
Having that space, like a community like venue or a forum, even just for people to meet each other, because there are a lot of artists in Kingston, and not even just artists in the traditional sense, but just people who like to create. And I think to connect those individuals would be a great thing.
I think it's really important to have public spaces, and particularly public central spaces, where people can feel free to meet. It's sort of a good way to start a project or an interaction or a relationship with somebody that doesn't feel maybe as awkward or as high pressure as first off inviting somebody to your studio or something like that.
There's a lot of really great things happening at Queen's, and my experiences from that institution coming to Kingston, that's the reason why I came to the city. But I find that most people leave after they're done their degree. And it would be really nice if there was incentives and different opportunities for young people to stay and do work and start their careers here, and then maybe continue them as well.
You have your town and gown arts organizations, and although we do work together and support one another, our audiences, I think, aren't so supportive of that.
They're building the Queen's Performing Arts Centre and redeveloping the JK Tet. Presumably, people think we have an audience here because they wouldn't be going to all that trouble.
That the proximity of the renovated Tet Centre and the new Isabel Bader Centre is really exciting. Here we're going to have a great sort of cluster of the arts in a really spectacular setting. This is a great example of Queen's working collaboratively with the City of Kingston.
If we do, 15 concerts a year, it still leaves a lot of open days in this facility. And, we're starting to see other groups starting to realize that they can utilize the K-Rock Center as well.
If I could see a model that worked here in Kingston, I would think that some sort of social hub, like not unlike 401 Richmond in Toronto, where you have, an urbanized building in sort of disrepair that has been rejuvenized into this hub of arts organizations, and really has created an arts culture, which I think is lacking in Kingston.
If we don't collaborate, we duplicate efforts, because we're not aware of what other people are doing. And I think when we work together, different groups, we really see where we're like overlapping or trying to serve the same people the same thing.
I'm particularly interested personally in art that comes a bit more from the margins and doesn't have the same kinds of resources as the big productions, and I find a lot of that happening in Kingston.
The most dynamism is at the intersection of the arts.
There's tons of kids who go in all of our centers, so we want to expose them to the arts. Some of the teenage youth that are here get to see that. It's going to spike their interest and maybe give them an opportunity to take a different route or a different, different interest.
It's a matter of choosing the programming that's stimulating, provocative, unusual, not same old, same old.
I think that
there's more communication between the different elements of the art scene than there was when I first moved here. I guess I've been here about 15 years. And it used to seem to me that there was kind of the symphony and the choirs over on one side, and then there's people playing in bars and kids doing things, amateur things. And I just have a feeling that there's more interaction between those environments now. And I think that's really great. I think it's actually necessary.
Art is a process. Art is about human beings interacting with each other.
People want to engage together.